Everybody requests you to kindly bring your tea and coffee cups inside the room. We are starting the session. Do we have Dr. Somali in the room? Okay, I think we have enough people in the room. We'll start the session. And IFPRI volunteers, if you can keep on ushering the people who are standing outside inside the rooms. So welcome back, all of you, and apologies for a very short tea break. We are starting with our first thematic session for the first thematic parallel session for this conference, and the title of this session is Agriculture and Food Security and Nutrition Pathways. The co-chairs for this session are Dr. Avinash Kishore and Dr. Somali Dondasekara. Dr. Avinash Kishore is a Senior Research Fellow in the Development Strategies and Governance Unit based in IFPRI's South Asia office in New Delhi. His research focuses on understanding how public policies and markets affect the adoption and non-adoption of sustainable technologies and practices in agriculture in South Asia. Welcome, Avinash. Dr. Somali is a Senior Lecturer in the Department of Food Science and Technology at the Faculty of Agriculture, University of Peradeniya, Sri Lanka. She holds a PhD in kinesiology from the University of Houston, USA, and an MSc in food and nutrition from the University of Peradeniya, Sri Lanka. Her research focuses on dietary and lifestyle behaviors among vulnerable populations in Sri Lanka. Welcome, Dr. Somali. To start the session, now I would like to hand it over to our co-chairs, Avinash and Somali, to take it from here.
Welcome. I'm Avinash. In the interest of time, let's just get straight to presentations. We want to have as much time as possible for audience and question and answers. So I'll call the first speaker, Dr. Tanjur Samina. Let's get the Tushar. You should also come up. Dr. Shailendra Kumar from ICRISAT. Dr. Aminuddin Ahmed from HKI, Helen Keller Institute. Sir, please. Dr. Sarah Barone from FAO. And let's get started with the first presenter, Dr. Tanjur Samina from BIDS. Tanjur, over to you. Please keep to 8 minutes. Sharvari will show the time. And let's try to finish our presentations on time. Thank you.
So, good morning, everyone. My name is Taznur, and I'm delighted to present my research on linking agricultural production diversity with household dietary diversity and panel data analysis from rural Bangladesh. Thank you for being here today. So this is the outline of the presentation. First, I will start by providing an overview of the rationale of the study. Then I will discuss the methodology, followed by the major findings, and I will conclude with the policy implication. So agriculture is vital to Bangladesh economy and rural development, although the contribution of agriculture on GDP is decreasing over the time, but still 40% of the people are engaged in agriculture for their livelihood. Future agriculture growth and food and nutritional security are threatened by the population growth, scarce natural resources, persistent poverty, and also the impact of climate change, leading to food security in coming decades. Rice is a staple food which accounted for 77% of the total cropped area and 49% of the total dietary energy intakes on average. Therefore, consumption pattern in Bangladesh contains very little dietary diversity and also a large number of population in food insecure due to poor quality diet. So in Bangladesh, where the rural households largely rely on subsistence farming, the diversity of crops grown can significantly impact the variety of foods consumed within the households. Thus, households' production of agricultural products for self-consumption is a key way to improve the household food and nutrition security. In this context, this study examines the linkage between the farm production diversity to household dietary diversity in rural Bangladesh, and also to identify how these relationships are influenced by various factors, including the output market participation and climate changes. So this study uses data from the 3 rounds of Bangladesh Integrated Household Survey were implemented by the IFPRI, and BIHS samples are statistically representative of national rural Bangladesh, covers all the 64 districts. So this table shows the characteristics and number of districts covered of hotspot zone, which is classified based on the climatic condition, and you can see the sum of the district belongs to multiple hotspot zone, and only 8 districts belongs to relatively less hazard-prone areas. Okay, so this table represents the estimation procedure of output variables. That is the household dietary richness score, household dietary diversity score, and aggregated food group frequency. And also the 3 main explanatory variables, that is agricultural richness score, Simpson index of diversity, and agriculture diversity score. So this is the empirical methodology. The outcome variables will be the different measures of dietary diversity, and also this analysis also employs the fixed effects panel model, that is control for household and fixed effect. So this is the summary statistics for the outcome variables and main explanatory variable. The summary statistic of outcome variable and main explanatory variables shown that all the dietary score index have increased over the time, but agriculture production diversity score has increased from 2012 to 2015, but it has decreased in 2018. The summary statistic for the other control variable shows that the average age of the household head is 45 years. 81% households are male-headed households. Education of the highest educated female members of households is 6th grade, which is higher than the average household head education. In the household size, share of working age group members are higher than the children and elderly people in the members of the household. And we can also see that the cultivated areas are decreasing over the years. And the graph shows that the household consumes fruits, eggs, legumes, and nuts, milk and milk products for the 2 days in a week, while the only 1 day for the meat in a week. Fish intake is higher than all the protein food items, which is 4 days in a week. This is the regression results on the effect of agricultural production diversity. The 3 different measures of agricultural production diversity are used in regression for the outcome variable household dietary richness score, and we observed that all agricultural production diversity measures have positive and significant effect on the dietary measures of HDRS. Column 1 and 2 implies that expanding agricultural production by 1 to 2 more types of food item will increase the dietary richness by 1 more food items. Here we can see the one-to-one relationship, which indicates the diversity in own production, were the main drivers of diversity in diet. And from this table, we observe that agriculture richness score and agriculture diversity score have positive and significant effect on the household dietary diversity score. Here we can see that output market participation influences the HDDS. And from the table, we observed that household production of meat, milk, and milk products, fish, eggs, and fruits significantly increases the household dietary diversity. And this table shows the regional variation across the country, where hazard-prone areas are negatively affect dietary diversity than the areas which are relatively less hazard-prone. So this is the summary and conclusion. What we can see from this study is the relationship between ARS and ADS with HDRS and AFGF indicates that diversity in own production is the primary driver of diversity in diet. The agriculture diversity measures, the Simpson index, shows a significant effect of output market participation on the dietary diversity. Therefore, we can say that agriculture production influences household dietary diversity both by the providing food for the household consumption or generating income through agricultural marketing. We observe the consistent effect of the 2 control variables, that is the level of education of the best educated female members of the household and also household size. Both variables have positive and significant effect on dietary diversity. Female-headed households face greater challenges than the male-headed households to ensure diverse food. And the significant regional variation in dietary diversity are observed across hotspot zones, with the drought-prone and liver-affected areas often facing more severe dietary challenges. So this is the policy implication. So policy.
Thank you.
Okay, just one minute. Policies that promote agriculture diversification and enhance the market access are essential for providing dietary diversity and also building the resilience to climate shocks in rural Bangladesh. And cross-cutting policy must prioritize gender and climate resilience, particularly in regions facing compounded hazards. And integrated regional specific climate resilient agriculture practice is crucial to address the localized challenges and ensure sustainable outcomes. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Shamil. Our next speaker is Tushar from IFPRI. Tushar, over to you. You have 8 minutes, and Sharvari there is showing time. Okay.
Hello. Okay, good morning, everyone. So I'll talk about a seemingly simple yet complex question, which is what matters more. Oops, sorry. So what matters more for dietary diversity? Is it the accessibility to markets or the diversity of farm production, right? Okay. So to give you a sense of why Nepal is an ideal setting to explore this question is to just look at these two pictures, right? On the left hand, we have the Terai plains, and on the right hand, we have the challenging, like on the left hand, we have the fertile plains, Terai plains, and on the right, we have the challenging terrains of the mid-hills. Now, so as we move from the Terai to the mid-hills, the altitude changes very sharply, and this has like wide-ranging implications for what can be grown, what inputs are available, where are the markets, and whether nutritious food is accessible and affordable. So this diversity in altitude and this distinct landscape raises an important question. Like, can the same agricultural policy serve these diverse landscapes? And this is at the heart of the heart of this work, right? So just like let's examining how agriculture influences diets. This diagram is just a bird's eye view of the agriculture nutrition pathways. There can and maybe are more pathways, but we focus on two. So the two pathways that we focus on are diversification and specialization. Diversification just basically involves farmers cultivating a variety of crops and livestock and consuming most of what they produce. Specialization, on the other hand, involves farmers focusing on certain lucrative crops, often market-oriented crops, and using that income to buy a diverse basket of food, right? Now, interestingly, both of these pathways are heavily context-dependent. I mean, while it might seem obvious that more diverse farms might lead to more diverse diets, but it's not that simple. A lot of like recent studies now show that though production diversity has an impact on diets, it's not always the most effective strategy. Market access often has a more significant impact on diets than production diversity alone. So this is just a basic overview of our sampled households. So the data for this study comes from a survey we conducted in 2023 in Nepal in 2 provinces and 6 districts covering 1,000 households. These green dots are the sampled households. We used the 2011 Nepal National Census as our sampling frame and used a multi-stage sampling design to choose these households. So we have 2 main objectives. The first is to just explore the direct relationship between production and diets. And the second is to understand how market access and other factors might influence this relationship, right? So based on these 2 objectives, we have formulated 2 key hypotheses. First is basically that like greater farm diversity correlates with higher dietary diversity when we excluding all of the factors. Like when we control for every other factor, greater farm diversity will lead to greater dietary diversity. Put simply, we just want to investigate whether farmers who have more diverse farms tend to have more diverse diets or not. Our second hypothesis extends this inquiry and to examine the role of market access. So we propose that the link between production diversity and dietary diversity is more pronounced in remote areas and diminishes in regions with better market access. The rationale being that in regions which have better market access, farmers may just opt to cultivate some certain lucrative crops and use that income to buy diverse food rather than cultivating everything themselves, right? So to empirically test these relationships, we run 3 sets of linear regression. The first is basically a direct relationship between production and diets, excluding all other covariates. This basically just gives us a baseline understanding of what the association looks like, right? In the extended model, we include other control variables and a variable indicative of market access, and we estimate this for both for the overall sample and separately for the subsamples from each of the 2 regions, Middles and Terai. So this dual approach just basically helps us to verify whether production diversity loses its importance with better market access. So for example, if it does, then we'll find that in the region-specific models, the effect of production diversity on dietary diversity will lose its significance in Terai region because it has better market access. Finally, we just include some interaction terms to just substantiate our findings even further. We include interactions like market access and production diversity and market access and wealth to, again, understand the moderating effect of market access, like for household wealth and for production diversity. So this is just a overview of the key variables. Our dependent key variable is dietary diversity. It's just a food group diversity score ranging from 0 to 10. The number of food groups consumed in the last 24 hours. Our primary explanatory variable is production diversity. It's just a simple unweighted count of the number of crops and livestock species produced on the farm in the last 1 year. And our second primary explanatory variable is market access, and we use household altitude to proxy for that. Okay, now coming to the results. So what we find is that the average diet is pretty limited in variety. Households typically consume 4.6 out of the 10 possible food groups. And there's heavy focus on staples. Like cereals are almost universally consumed. So some other food groups include pulses, dairy, dark green leafy vegetables. Now, when we look at this region-wise, we see that there is there is differences in specific food group consumption by regions, but overall what we see is that dietary diversity in the Terai region is slightly better than in the mid-hills. Yeah, so this is just, whenever we look at, when we study what factors influence dietary diversity, wealth really emerges as one of the most crucial determinant, and this graph just shows what's the relationship between diet and wealth. And we see that there is a positive correlation between diets and wealth in both the regions, but there's something peculiar here, right? We see that it's the effect of the relationship between wealth and diet is more pronounced in the Terai region, and it's less pronounced in the mid-hills, right? So this basically tells that farmers in the mid-hills are actually, even the wealthiest farmers in the mid-hills are not able to translate the wealth into better diets as their counterparts do in the Terai region. Okay, so just look at these graphs side by side. This just shows the mean diet and the mean production diversity in both the regions. And this is the apparent paradox in our data set, right? You see that the farmers in the mid-hills have more diverse farms, yet their dietary diversity is less. And farmers in the Terai region, despite having a lower production diversity, are able to enjoy better diets, right? So this is at the heart of the heart of this work, right? We really try to understand what's happening. And that's what we explore in the regression results. So coming to the regression results, first what we find is production diversity does improve diets, and the effect varies by region. The effect is more strong in the Terai than in the mid-hills. This is possibly because the baseline level of production diversity in Terai is very less, so any increase in production diversity really improves diets a lot. Okay, now the second is, I'll just take a few seconds, yeah. So the second is like, when we adjust our model to include market access and other variables, what do we find? We find that market access does matter. We find two things, that market access really matters. It significantly benefits production diversity. And the second thing we find is that if you look at the pooled model only, that even when we control for all of the factors, production diversity still has a positive effect on dietary diversity. So both of these factors matter. Now, but here's something like really interesting. When we split the sample into two and estimate the model for mid-hills and Terai, we see that the relationship between production diversity and market access is significant, but in the mid-hills, but in Terai it becomes non-significant. So it supports our second hypothesis that production diversity really matters for farmers in remoter areas where there's poor market access, but it's good for, but it's really not that important for farmers in the Terai region. This is just like substantiating our finding even further, that interaction effects just show that market access does act as a moderating influence in shaping these relationships. So just to sum up what this means for policy. So what we see is that, so there's a three-way complex relationship between these three variables, and all have an influence on diets, right? So there's one policy is not really going to work because the effectiveness of any solution significantly varies depending on the local market access. So, I mean, we need to think like context-specific strategies. So in the short term, it could be like, okay, maybe focusing on production diversity in the remote areas, because we see that it really does help farmers in the remote areas to achieve a better diet by diversifying their production. But I think that's not a sustainable solution. The sustainable solution lies in just like improving market access even in the remote areas, just by improving infrastructure development, transportation. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks
Sorry
a lot,
for...
Tushar. No, thanks a lot, Tushar. Next, we have Dr. Shailendra Kumar from ICRISAT. Over to you, Shailendra. You have 8 minutes. No, please try to finish in 8 minutes, Shailendra.
Yeah, of course. Can I have my presentation? Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session again. So I will be presenting a case. Sorry. Middle? Yeah. So I will be presenting a case study of Assam Millet Mission, and that highlights the need for connecting the dots between policy and outcomes to really achieve its goal or aims of addressing nutrition and climate risk challenges. Okay. So in Assam, as you can see on this slide, we have done this analysis, or you can see the extent of climate variability overall, but also not only floods, but drought proneness also post-rainy season. And then if you look at the nutrition indicators, stunted, wasting, and underweight, all these values are already high for national, but the Assam is much higher than the national average. So since millets are nutrition dense and the climate resilient crops, so Assam government implemented or started Assam Millet Mission as one of the strategies to address both of these challenges. Now these are the main components which actually covers everything right from the promoting the millets into 15 districts, from the seed and training and promoting FPUs, the technical backstopping by ICRISAT and Assam Millet Mission, Assam Agricultural University, large-scale awareness programs, training on recipe development, supporting FPUs and women groups for participation in exhibitions, including millets in Anganwadi programs. So also they have an intention to include, and very much actually they want to include in the PM Poshan schools, that is midday meal schools. So all components are right in place, and the investment or support by World Bank and government really wanted. So our study, we were trying to assess how this whole millet production to consumption continuum is working and whether it's really helping the objectives and identifying challenges and opportunities. So our study covered all 15 districts and extensive the primary data we collected from the farm households in 50 districts, the rural and urban consumers, traders, processors, retailers, and also especially discussing with the women on the recipes and consumption choices, and FGDs with the key stakeholders including policymakers and industry. And then a number of things we try to understand the whole value chain. What are the really key gaps, whether it's really working the way it was or it is not working, and what can be done, how we can achieve the objective of Assam Millet Mission. So there are two major millets, that is foxtail millet and big finger millet. Now, when we want to really succeed by integrating any new grain like millet, which is nutrition dense and climate resilient, there are two most important key stakeholders should be at the center and has to be really taken care of. That is one, producers and the consumers. If we are able to take care of these two, then we can really succeed in integrating these foods. And millet, of course, we see Assam mostly rice, but this is not new to Assam. Traditionally, they were producing and eating millets in the uphills. So if you look at the yields, so the huge variability in the yields. So that is one, in one district, for example, if you look at the Golpara, only 200 kg average yield, and Kokras are 1700s. So intra-district and inter-district, there is huge variability, and that is showing that we need to identify which regions we need to really promote millets. This is one. And total area in Assam is only 6,000 hectares, around 6,000 tons of yield, so 1 ton per hectare. It's not very big, but then when you look at the farmer side, what is happening to farmers when the government is supporting all out, but still when you look at the economics, the net returns, looking at the only variable cost, not the fixed cost, most of the places it is in red. So except 2 districts, farmers are making net loss. And why? See, about 50% farmers were in loss, only few of them get good income, and despite huge effort under the Assam Millet Mission, most farmers did not want to cultivate the crop again. And though the value of millet, but still farmers feel that this can be a good introduction in certain places if there are certain supports, or I will talk about that. So what is the reason for loss? Reason for loss are 2 or 3 mainly. One is the yield gap, so which can be addressed to a great extent. The other one is the market. So 40% farmers were not able to sell the millet. And then if you look at the price variability is from 20 rupees to 100 kg per kg for farmers in fingertail, and foxtail millet 14 rupees to 120 kg. But at the same time, if you look at the consumers, the average price is 101 and 160 rupees per kg. So consumers are not able to afford and farmers are making loss. So if this equation continues, we cannot really make. And why these farmers are not able to sell? Because almost 75% of them did not have any market for the foxtail millet especially. And some of them, because the primary processing machines are not there, unless you process at the primary level, you cannot sell foxtail millet. So there is a dichotomy of the policy aspirations and outcome. On the one side, of course, government is promoting with all good intentions and efforts, they are making really good efforts. The Anganwadis had introduced millet, which needs 600 tons per month, which comes to 7,000 tons. And total production of Assam is only 6,000 tons. But still 40% farmers are not able to sell. So demand is there, but farmers are not able to sell. And now the Anganwadi, this department is importing or buying from Rajasthan, but not, so unless you really support our local system and buying Rajasthan, it will not help. PM Poshan school is also waiting to introduce, but since millets are not there, and the high cost of millet is really discouraging consumers. So I don't want to read, I have already mentioned that how those kind of dichotomies. So I will just last 2 slides. So the policy recommendations on the supply side, there is an excellent scope to still further expand. Around 15,000 area is fallow in February and May where there is not many crops. And then another, but the location specific millet extension plan need to be developed. It's not like pushing anywhere. Another 10,000 area in the river beds. So some farmers started doing, this is another we can do. But then the enhanced access to machinery is very, very important, especially de-husking and threshing, and that can be facilitated by the FPOs and farmers-led custom mining centers. Again, the farmers-led seed production, this is another on supply side, and capacity building of the farmers and extension systems, and could be like incentives like Odisha for producing millet. My last slide on the demand side, the decentralized public procurement of millet will be really critical. So currently PDS is decentralized, but in millet case, it has to be a bit more different, using the public feeding programs in Anganwadi. And for that, because already that has sufficient demand, but policy interventions are needed to enable the purchase of local millet, which is not happening today. In fact, the policy need to allow higher cost. As of now, there is only 8 rupees per child for the Anganwadi, but this millet cannot be adjusted into it. And then because the production is very, very scattered, so maybe an online platform, maybe 20 seconds. Platform can be created wherein both farmers and the buyers can register, and then we know where are the production and where are the demand. So because production is not really very, very big. And minimum support price for foxtail millet, which is not there now, need to be decided, or it can be like equal to the finger millets. And the initial market for the value-added product can be through like public supported canteens or hostels and all that. So I would say that coordinated efforts are really needed from the agriculture, PDS, child and women development, and education program that can really help Assam to integrate and expand millet area, which will be good for in terms of climate resilience, but also for nutrition. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Shailendra. Let's call the next presenter, Dr. Aminu Ahmad from Helen Keller International. Sir, over to you.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon and assalamu alaikum. My name is Aminuddin. I work for Helen Keller International Bangladesh office as a head of food security and livelihood. So I'm going to present some evidence, lesson learned, and experiences from one of the largest multi-sectoral approach project called the Suchona. So, sure, thank you. The project funded by UKAID and European Union, and then 7 consortium members were involved to implement this project. The 4 were international technical lead, and then 3 were implementation partner. So, the goal to reduce the stunting overall, and there was the approach actually to adopt the integrated approach into the nutrition sensitive and nutrition specific intervention. And the project also aimed to develop a sustainable and replicable model that can be scaled up. So that project tried to scale through the government and private sector. The duration was of 7 years, and the project implemented across 2 districts, northeast region of Bangladesh, near our border of Meghalaya and Assam of India. The area, actually the 2 most vulnerable area on the area, one is the nutrition aspect. Nutritional is the most vulnerable of the country compared to the country average data. And then another is the climatic vulnerable, this area. So the project covered actually 235,000 beneficiaries, including 1.4 million population. Across the 2 districts and 24 sub-districts. So I'm going to show some of the intervention support to the project participant. On the 100% participant, they receive support from the horticulture, and then 30% are poultry or duck rearing, and then aquaculture is another 30%, and the 40% actually income generating activities. The aquaculture led by the World Fish Center, and then others are led by Helen Keller International. So, what is the role our in Suchona project HK actually leading to produce the nutritious vegetables or food at the homestead area by establishing the village model farm. So how we are reaching to the community people, that we are establishing the village model farm is a platform to demonstrate the best practices, agricultural practices at the community level. We also lead to integrate the gender across the program, and also we are working on the nutrition governance, advocacy with the government and private sector. There are some results I am going to show. Before that, the inline survey was did under the Sussex University. If you see the below graph, there are some practices that the project implemented in the phase-wise, so phase 1, 2, 3, 4. So still there is some practices. If you see the poultry and horticultural practice in the below graph, so phase-wise, there's the active phase and the non-active phase. Still the phase, all phase, the non-active phase is 70% is still poultry, they are practicing. And 72% the horticultural practice they are still doing. And if you see the income generation activities on the top, still the major percentage, like the 82% beneficiaries, they are getting the profit. They are making the profit still from the project. The project actually addressed heavily, because I mentioned earlier, there is a climatic vulnerable area of the Bangladesh or the Sylhet region. So the project worked to access the climatic information and the early warning system. Also project work to make the diversified livelihood for the beneficiaries, and also project work to change their cropping pattern, so making the resilient cropping pattern. And based on the experience, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, they made the 27 years plan as called the National Adaptation Plan. So they also incorporate some of the climate smart technologies into their plan. So we found that the climate smart agriculture programs that contribute a lot to continue their production at the beneficiaries level. There are some other results, if you see the compared to the baseline, midline and end line. So these all are improving the food security and the household dietary diversity. And also all the next result, the dietary diversity for the women and minimum acceptable diet for the children, that also has been increased from the baseline to midline and end line also. The project also worked to empower the women to produce their, continue to produce their homestead food production involved. So project found that in the decision making in the nutrition and health, that has been increased actually, though, so women empowered to make the decision on the nutrition and health. But still we need to go far for the decision on the large household purchase. There are some lessons learned that earlier I tried to mention, then the engaging with the government department as well as the private sector. The project found is a good result. So government, some of the best practices, they incorporated into their program. So that we found, and the village model farm and then community vaccinator, they worked as a local service provider. And one of the most important thing is that during the COVID, the women contribution into their homestead food production that we found. So male also dependent on the women contribution to the food production. Then my last slide, sorry, a few seconds. So it's not passing.
It's okay, you can conclude.
There are some key recommendations from the project. So one is the homestead food production. Definitely need to scale up for the improved food and nutrition security. And we found the SBCC, the SBCC strategy that improved the nutrition uptake. And also the income generation activities that off-farms contribute to the nutrition. And also addressing, very important for gender norms and inequality, we need to address more actually. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Dr. Ahmed. May I now invite Sarah Baron, the last presentation before question and answer session, and then we'll have some rapid fire presentations. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sara Burrone, and I am an economist within the Agri-Food Economics and Policy Division of FAO. And today I'm glad to present the results of an impact evaluation that we have conducted in rural Sri Lanka. And in particular, we have used a randomized control trial to assess the effect of e-extension services on farmer access to information, agricultural management practices, marketing decision, and household food security. I just want to highlight that this, of course, is the result of a joint effort with some other colleagues from FAO. Let's start from the e-extension services. So FAO, in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture of Sri Lanka, the Department of Meteorology and HARTI, have developed the Smart Extension and Efficient Decision Making Hub, also called CDHub, which is an integrated e-extension services, a mobile application, providing timely and geolocalized information to paddy farmers. And in particular, it is providing weather forecasts, market prices, agro-market and agrometeorological advice. To assess the impact of these extension services, we have collected some data, a panel data set, through the Sri Lanka Paddy Farmer Survey. And we have administered this survey to a nationally representative sample of 2,200 paddy farmers across 10 different districts in Sri Lanka. The survey is a normal multi-topic household survey gathering data on demographic, socioeconomics, variable risk management practices, agricultural practices, food security, and agricultural production. So we collected the baseline in October, November 2022, so before of the release of the CDAB. From December 2022 to June, July 2023, we have co-developed the mobile application with the stakeholders, and we have tested it. And then finally, in July 2023, we have released the CDAB to the farmers. And we have released the CDAB to the farmers before of the main agricultural season, so the MAA season. After that, we have another midline data collection and an endline data collection in April-May 2024, so after the end of the main agricultural season. So we were able to also collect information about agricultural production and crop sales. For what concern the treatment, so we use a randomized control trial. So we randomize the treatment assignment in our sample and using a two-stage cluster stratified randomization. This resulted in half of our sample being assigned to the treatment and the other half to the control. So the treatment assignment was made at farmer organization level in order to avoid possible spillover within the same farmer organization. And we invited the 1,100 farmers in the treatment group to participate to the CDAB deployment event, during which we have provided the credential to log in to the mobile application. In addition to this, half of the farmers in the treatment group also received a training on how to use the application and how to download the application on the phone. While for the farmer in the control group, they didn't receive the credential to log into the CDAB, so they were not treated. In order to, it's also, in order to estimate the assess, we use an intention to treat. We both estimate the intention to treat and the local average treatment effect using an ANCOVA model. For what concerns the late effect, we have considered the download of the app as a measure of the take-up. And it's interesting to see that among the treated, only 16% of the farmers were downloading the app, while 80% of the farmers within the treatment group were aware about CDAB and the information in the CDAB. So it's interesting also for policy implication because it may, let's say, highlight some challenges for farmers for having access to these kind of digital tools. For example, there might be a gap in terms of digital skills, but also the cost of having access to the data can be an important challenge for them. But let's go to the results. So looking at the primary outcomes, so to the farmer access to information, we find actually that the CDAB has enhanced farmer access to the information, and then especially to the market information and weather information. This is true both using intention to treat estimates and late estimates. And if we look at the effect of the CDAB among the compliers, so considering the late estimates, we find that actually CDAB has increased the access to the information through digital tool by almost 80%. Sorry, there is a mistake in the slide. If we consider the secondary outcomes, we find that CDAB has enhanced rice production, and for what concern management practices, farmers have increased the number of crops they produce. So CDAB has enhanced production diversity and also has reduced the use of the quantity of organic fertilizer used by the farmers, aligning these quantities to the recommendation, because in the baseline we found actually that the farmers were overusing, let's say, organic fertilizer. In terms of market outcomes, we found that farmers in the treatment group were able to sell a higher quantity of rice and also to get better prices for rice, while we didn't find an impact on household food security or in the reduction in harvest losses. So here, I mean, these results brought us to rethink, reconsider a little bit our theory of change, because actually CDAB is increasing the access to information, is enhancing some agricultural management practices, so farmers are producing more rice, are increasing the number of crop that they are producing, but we don't find a corresponding increase in household dietary diversity. So that's why it's important to highlight that while these kind of tools are important for farmers, they might not be a panacea for everything, and addressing broader structural challenges that farmers are facing may be the key to really realize the full potential of this tool. And therefore, we think it's important to call for a more comprehensive approach. So not only providing this digital tool to farmers, but also support them with complementary intervention like financial support or capacity building activity, especially for digital literacy and key investment in infrastructure. And we think that this holistic approach may not only increase the access to information of farmers, but also provide them with the needed tool to transform this information in a more effective use of the information itself. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. Thank you. So I want to thank all 5 speakers for keeping it to time, or almost to time. And now we have time for question and answers. So please raise your hand and someone will come to you. What we'll do is we'll collect 3-4 questions in one shot. Please name the presenter your question is pointed to, and please keep your questions short. Thank you. So let's just queue up if you have follow-up questions to save time. Anjali, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for the interesting presentations. I'm Anjali. I have background in nutrition. My first question is to Tanzu regarding her presentation. Do you think the interpretations will be different if you look at the nutrient-rich food groups only instead of the overall dietary diversity? So, because I think from Southeast Asian point of view, micronutrients are important. And could you do some mediation analysis to check the effect of the dietary diversity as well as along with the climatic effect and plus agricultural diversity? So this was for the first speaker. Can I also ask a question?
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
For the second speaker from IFPRI, Nepal, similar question. If you look at the nutrient-rich food groups, do you think it will be different interpretation in case if you're looking at the associations? Thanks.
Thanks, Anjali. Any other questions? Go ahead, just queue up behind the mic.
This is not a question, this is an observation. That's why I want to leave time for anyone else.
Please identify yourself quickly. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm from the private sector. My name is Charita. I'm a recovering IT guy, recovering corporate guy. I just want to we are only 1/6 of the way through this conference, but we are talking about connecting the dots. But I think you can already see a lot of missed opportunities. I don't know whether it's for purposes of trying to maintain integrity of the sampling or whatever, but we are in the 10th year of operation of a e-extension service in Sri Lanka. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to collaborate across, we're talking public, private, and all these things, to work with each other and have much larger real-world sample sizes to really get better data based on what we are prioritizing and which dots need to work together.
Thank you. Thanks. Next, please.
I'm Dr. Nilufar Safdar. I'm from Karachi, from the Dow University of Health Sciences, and I have a nutrition background. So my question to Mohammed Amin Sahab is that in your Suchana project, you said that effectively it empowered women with regards to making decisions on nutrition and health. Did you do pre and post survey to evaluate those criteria? And did you have some important items to measure in order to make a decision, in order to say that we saw improvement? That is my first question to you. And my second question is to Sarah. She talked about the digital use of the phone, of the app. So is it possible that, was it in their local language, the app, which could be translated into their local language? And how, even if they were able to afford it, were they savvy to use the app? Did that matter or not? Thank you.
Thanks. One more question, and then we come to the presenters. Yes.
My name is Dr. Monirul Hassan. I'm from GAIN, Bangladesh. My question to Mr. Aminul Islam from Suchana. So I have been following Suchana for last 7 years. My question to you, sir, as it is a $23 million project over the last 7 years, do you have any impact level analysis, especially on the child nutrition, as it is meant for develop the undernutrition of the children in Bangladesh, especially in that region? So you showed that there are indicators of minimal acceptable diets and dietary diversity. These are the very good indicator, but also the stunting. That region stunting is not reduced.
Thank you.
What is that? And Esha, the question is Sarah to, thank you for reaching that, bringing it here. We are too much having burden on the farmers itself that the other factors are not encountered. Thanks for that.
Thank you. So can we start the answers in the same order as presented? So first, Samina, please go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for asking me this question. Actually, it is important to estimate the the micronutrients, but my data did not permit me to do this analysis. And in this case, dietary diversity actually a proxy variable that is widely used to see the quality of diet. So I think it gives the answer.
Sure. No, follow-up questions we'll do later. Sorry, yeah. Go ahead. Was there any other questions? Tushar?
Hello. Yeah, thanks for the question. So yeah, I think that's a good question. And so basically looking at how the interpretations would change if you look at macronutrients and micronutrient food groups separately. That's the question? Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So basically you're saying instead of using the 10 score variable, we use just a binary variable, right? 1, 0, minimum dietary diversity. With, yeah, sure. So I mean, FGDS is derived from the minimum dietary diversity score for women, right? So yeah, I mean, we can definitely check. We'll have to change the specification, but yeah, I guess because it's derived from the MDDW, I'm not sure how it's going to affect the interpretations or the results. But yeah, I do think if we just look at certain food groups separately, then the interpretations could change, because some of the food groups like dairy or fresh vegetables, which are not easy, which are very perishable, and which are for that, like market access will have a totally different interpretation for or result for remote areas and for areas with better market access.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Tushar.
but yeah, I get your point, and we can definitely discuss this later.
Thanks, Tushar. Mr. Aminul Ahmed, and then we'll come to you, Sarah.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to answer the first question, maybe ask from this side. Yes, the Suchona, to measure the gender or women empowerment, so we have the baseline, midline, and endline. So that's how you compare. And you ask, yeah, we have a set of indicator. Not only see the women household workload sharing, so others also indicator are there that we measure. The last question, yes, Suchona, the impact level evaluation was there. So we have the result to stunting, wasting, and others also. Thank you.
Thank you. We have some questions from the virtual participants. I'll request Archish to read them out. Sorry, oh, sorry, Sarah, I missed you.
No worries.
1 second, yeah, apologies.
Okay, thanks for the question. So yes, the application was in 3 languages, English, Sinhala, and Tamil. So farmers were able to choose the language, and also not only to read the advice or alert, but also to listen to them in case there were any literacy, let's say, problem. And let's say the major gap that we have found were related to the digital skills. So older farmers were not really able to use a smartphone other than doing a call, let's say. So that's why we asked them to also bring their younger son or daughters to help them in understanding how the application was working. And another major constraint was related to the cost of the data. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Over to the virtual questions. We have about 6 of them. We may keep just 2 or 3.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Avinash. So let me just read out the first 3 questions. And I guess all of them are for Tushar. So the first one is, what are some of the key strategies to improve market access? And then the second one is, in the mid-hill regions, production diversity is higher, while in the Terai, production diversity is lower, but diversity scores are higher. What factors might explain this in the Nepalese context? And then the same participant had a second question, which is basically, is altitude and GPS the most appropriate measures for analyzing market access? Wouldn't market connectivity be better assessed using distance to roads and markets rather than altitude and GPS? What is your perspective on this? I'll just keep limited to this.
Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Tushar.
Okay, thanks a lot. The first question is pretty loaded because I don't have the answer. I mean, it's like a really politically motivated question. I mean, how to really improve market access? I mean, I can suggest a lot of things, like very general things, like we need to improve infrastructure availability, better road infrastructure, and I mean, yeah, that's like some of the ways by which we can improve really market access in the remote areas of Nepal. But I'm not very thorough with the Nepalese context in terms of like how we can go like we can really do that. But yeah, that's what I think. The second question, what was the second question? Is it? Yeah, so that's what we try to answer that in the question, right? When we started looking at the data, that's the first thing we came across, that we found the diet scores were higher in Tarai, but the production diversity was lower. So, I mean, it could be, and we see that in the presentation, right? when we look at the regression results, that both of these factors really matter for diets, but when we split the sample into two, we see that that the relationship between production and diets stays significant for the mid-hills, but loses its impact, like the relationship becomes non-significant in the Terai region. So for mid-hills, I guess, yeah, I mean, because they're the ones, like, whatever they're producing, probably they're all consuming. And maybe they're also buying from the markets, because we see that even subsistence farmers do have access to the markets a little bit and do visit markets and get food from there. But in the Terai, probably there are a lot of other factors. Probably wealth is a major factor that really drives dietary diversity. There really better access to food markets. There are a lot of like trade that happens, that comes, a lot of like food supplies that come to Nepal comes from the India-Nepal border, and they're really close to the border with better market access. So that are some of the things which really which are probably really driving the dietary diversity there. So yeah, I guess, yeah. And the last question about altitude, using altitude. So we did use other variables like distance, like Euclidean distance to the nearest India-Nepal border, the on-road distance, like using the Google distance matrix. We calculated the on-road distance using to the nearest Indian-Nepal border, to the nearest World Food Program markets, to the central location in Kathmandu. We did calculate all those traditional measures of market access, right? But because 25% of our sample are located at so top of the hill, like there's no way to really calculate the Google distance, like the on-road distance from those households. So then we used other proxies, like calculating the nearest distance to the nearest road and then taking that point and calculating the distance from there. So we did actually try those variables, and we didn't really find any like meaningful relations, though we found the same effect with Euclidean distance. But then again, Euclidean distances are also not really good for Nepal. So that's why we use altitude, because altitude really is, given the diverse terrain that we see in Nepal, altitude really has a really strong correlation with infrastructure, availability, road networks. So that's why I think this choice of using altitude to proxy for market access is relevant in our context.
Nisha. Thanks. We have more questions online, but we'll pass them on. I apologize. You can take your questions straight away to the presenters after the session. Apologies for that. We have to move on to our rapid fire presentations now. So we'll move on to our next presenter. These presentations are only 2 minutes short. So I would like to invite the first presenter here is Mr. Krishna Bahadur Jogi. Please come on the stage. And the next one is Derek Heddy. These two are in person, the other two are virtual. Over to you. You have 2 minutes. Stay here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to present on leveraging women's leadership and empowerment in value chain for resilient livelihoods, Women in Value Chain, WIVC, in this conference. WFP Nepal implemented this WIVC project for 4 years from 2020 to 2024 in Koilali district of Sudur Paschim province, which aimed at addressing the diverse challenges faced by smallholder women farmers. The project supported over 6,000 rural women from marginalized groups, including 500 women with disabilities, that effectively achieved the intended outcomes of the project, including increased access to resilient agricultural technologies, information and services, increased access to reliable and profitable markets, and enhanced entrepreneurship and business leadership skills, and capacity and agency of the rural women for collective bargaining and establishing the women's leadership in the value chain. WFP conducted general impact assessment and project outcome assessment through third-party research institutes. Both assessments have documented major 5 outcomes of the project. 1, nutrition integrated, resilient, and sustainable food system has been promoted through the farmer field schools, nutrition sensitive and climate smart agriculture, income diversification support, agriculture insurance, climate services, and post-harvest management support, which has resulted in the improved food security and nutrition. 2, smallholder agriculture market linkage and shock responsive protection measures have been ensured by connecting the women farmers with the localized, stable, and reliable agricultural market, with the homegrown school feeding approach, and commercial markets, and establishment of the community food banks, cash transfer, and agri insurance, which worked. Similarly, improved diversified and resilient income through guaranteed market linkage, women's empowerment, gender equality, and disability inclusion have been also ensured, and the government engagement and sustainability through the mainstream of this approach with the government system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Derek?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to talk about 2 things, very controversial, maybe offensive, about excess consumption of rice. Okay, so rice is the most politically important crop in Sri Lanka, in South Asia, and as well in most of Southeast Asia as well. So I don't know if you can see the top slide there. So I've divided this presentation into 3 parts. The first part is about this dietary diversity problem. And the statistic I'm showing there is the share of total calories that come from starchy staples. And if you look at the Eat Lancet, which is a global dietary recommendation as an example, that should be 37%, right? So 37% of all your calories should come from starchy staples such as rice. But if you look at Sri Lanka, which is just one example of an Asian country, but an apt one, it's 65%. So a huge difference, right? So according to the Eat Lancet nutritionists, a country like Sri Lanka is consuming way too much rice, almost double the amount of rice. So then part 2, we come to something called Bennett's Law. Bennett was an economist working for the US government in World War II, and he was actually looking at wheat consumption patterns in Europe. But Bennett's Law is that as incomes grow up, that starchy staple calorie share should come down, right? As we get richer, our diets diversify away from starchy staples. Now, I think the conference has provided binoculars under the chair. So if you take out your binoculars, you can stare at that graph and see all the green countries are rice countries. Those are rice countries where more than half of the calories in the country for starchy staples come from rice. And the blue line there shows Bennett's Law. That's the predicted dietary diversification out of starchy staples. And you can see that almost all the rice countries are below that line. So Sri Lanka is there, very hard to see, a long way below the line, but so is Indonesia and Bangladesh. And Bangladesh was actually the motivating country. What happened there? And then the third part is actually seeing, well, are there any nutritional consequences of excess rice? And we look at all these micronutrient deficiencies and undernutrition here, and you can see that rice countries have higher excess burdens of multiple forms of malnutrition.
Thanks, Derek. We move on to virtual presentations. First is Dr. Ramesh Joshi from WHH. You are muted, Dr. Joshi.
So, hello, are you hearing me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
So my presentation, someone will actually
Yes,
show my presentation, or?
Just give me a second, we are.
Okay, thank you.
Can you share your own screen? There's some technical issue here.
Okay, I will share. So I have to send request first, yeah? So I just send request to you to share my screen, yeah.
Yeah, we are good to go. Please share your screen.
Okay. So, yeah. Yes. Is it visible now?
Not
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, is it okay?
We will show it. Dr. Jogi, give us a minute.
Yeah, you
Sorry.
can
Okay.
start. You can
Yes,
start, Dr.
now you
Joshi.
can start speaking, Dr. Joshi.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ramesh Joshi from Oil to Hunger Hilfe, Nepal. Nice to see you, all of you here. Actually, I want to share some exciting findings from our recent implementation research regarding our integrated agriculture and nutritional intervention project. We call it Poshan Sudhar, means nutrition improvement. It has been inspiring to witness how our efforts have led to a remarkable decrease in severe acute malnutrition, SAM and MAM rates in the remote municipalities of Nepal. Through the Poshan Sudhar project, actually, we implemented a series of activities such as LAN. LAN is for the linking agriculture, nutrition, and natural resource management. And we also implemented good agriculture practices, also implemented nutrition education and rehabilitation program, screening and local level advocacy through the civil society mobilization, and we also enhancing participatory planning process. The impact of actually these integrated effort has been profound. We have seen an increase in year-round kitchen gardening, which is not only for the availability of the nutritious food but also contribute to income generation to the families. And moreover, we have fostered the active participation in local planning process, empowering communities to advocate to their own food and nutrition security. Actually, as an example, we can see in the, I think screen is not displaying now, but we can see in my presentation, in my slide, actually, in the first screening, we identified 179 cases of MOM in our target community, and this number dramatically decreased to just 48 cases in the fourth screening. This translates to a remarkable reduction of the 65% in SAM and the 60% in MOM. These results are not just actually the number, this actually result represent the lives transformed, family strengthened, and the community empowerment. Therefore,
Thank you, Dr. Joshi. Your time is up. Apologies.
We move to our last presentation. Thanks, Dr. Joshi, and again, apologies to Dr. Indu Sharma from IMI.
Hello, everyone.
Indu, are you sharing your own screen?
Yes.
Yeah, it's visible.
Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay,
Please go
great.
ahead.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So this presentation is actually, it uses the findings that are already published in 2021 in Advances in Nutrition Journal. So what we did is we tried to find the impact pathways from nutrition-sensitive agricultural interventions to nutrition outcomes, looking at different lower and middle-income countries. So this is a systematic review where we looked at both the impact from nutrition-sensitive agricultural interventions to the outcomes, as well as we mapped out different pathways that lead from these interventions to the outcome. So as you can see in the diagram, the impact pathways are quite complex. And first, I want to highlight in terms of impact, what we found is that as you can see that as we move from interventions to the impact on nutritional status, you can see there is a difference in the colors. So the dark green colors reflects that most of the studies reporting the positive and significant impact. And if you look at the lighter green says the impact, actually very fewer studies reporting the significant impact, and there are some yellow shades means no impact. So what we saw that, like the NSA interventions have the potential to address the multiple underlying causes of undernutrition, as we can see, like the food production, nutrition-related knowledge, and also income and different levels at the short-term outcomes. However, when we go to the impact on nutrition status, there is a disconnect. The study reported the impact, especially on the reducing micronutrient deficiencies such as anemia and vitamin A deficiency. However, looking at the anthropometrical, like indicators such as stunting and wasting, there is a disconnect in that one. So there are also positive impacts on dietary diversity, especially at the children's level, and we found more studies actually during that time that reported a positive impact on the women's dietary diversity. So when we looked at the pathways, the study that we reviewed, they reported 5 different pathways, increasing in food production, nutrition-related knowledge and behavior change, communication, women's empowerment, agricultural income, and strengthening of the local institutions. The first 2 pathways...
Indu, thank you so much. Your time is up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Indu. And thanks to all the presenters. Now I'll hand over the mic to my co-chair to conclude the session, and then Isha may have some logistical announcements for you after that.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes the morning session of this conference, and I would like to thank all our presenting authors for their very interesting, insightful, and very informative presentations. Even though unfortunately, we couldn't give you much time because you had more, you had very interesting findings which you were not allowed to share everything with the audience, but I hope during the lunchtime and the rest of the day, you can have discussions, and if you have any more questions, you can clarify them during that time, and also we were unable to give chance to ask questions for the rapid fire presentation sessions. So if you have questions for them, you can have discussions after this session. And thank you all. I wish you all have a very good rest of the day. Thank you.
We also want to thank the timekeeper who had the unpleasant job and the note takers. Of course, to all presenters, over to you, Isha.
Thank you, Avinash. Thank you, Dr. Somali. So as the panel takes the group photo, just wanted to announce that lunch is at the 4th floor. Please use the escalators or the elevators to go to the 4th floor. We are running behind, so I think we'll try to get back for our next session by 1:45 p.m. So try to finish your lunch and come back by 1:45 p.m. to Lotus Ballroom for session T2A and to Saffron and Ginger rooms for T2B. It's the same format, thematic sessions running in 2 parallel rooms. So have a good lunch and see you all at 1:45 p.m.